Yo guys, I am back with a follow-up video on yesterday's video because I think I said in the video yesterday that I would make a follow-up, and I felt like lining all these cards up here because I was thinking about talking about hand traps today and just hand traps in White Forest. And specifically, I wanted to talk about going full hand traps in terms of non-engine. And because yesterday, or when I made the last video, I can't actually remember, I sort of said that, you can't go full hand traps because you won't have enough spells and traps to send for your White Forest monsters. And that is, I kind of realized after making the video and thinking a bit about it, that is maybe me being stuck in the past because, and we talked about it in the video as well, that you now do have the witch and the black witch and the deception to sort of fix your hands when you're clogged up with monsters. And there's also more cards now that add spells and traps to your hand, like for example, as Amina said, right? So maybe I'm sort of thinking of this like, oh, you can play 18 hand traps. Maybe the reason I'm thinking this is because it hadn't been that way before, like pre-Supreme Darkness, but maybe now you actually can, or maybe you even could with Rage of the Abyss, right? If you choose to play the Asamina stuff, before the bridge got released. So I do not want to be a person who just says something without actually having a well-founded argument. So I did kind of catch myself in that video like afterwards, and I was like, I'm not actually, and I think I also kind of realized or felt that way during the video. I was like, I don't have a really solid argument as to why you cannot play 18 hand traps. I just feel like you can't, but I don't actually know for sure. And I don't know if we're gonna find out for sure because, ultimately it's probably a statistical question nonetheless, but we're at least gonna experiment with the idea today. And I also, so that's gonna be the first part where I'm just gonna try to do some test hands with 18 hand traps, and we're gonna see how it goes. And then the second part of the video, because I feel like that the first part is more like, okay, so if we are in this format where you're just forced to play 18 hand traps at minimum or something like that, could you even play White Forest? Like, is White Forest even playable with 18 hand traps? Or does it just break too much and so you can't play? And we might be in a format someday where, for example, if there's like an FTK deck that is T0, like if Gimmick Puppets, like if there isn't like a burn FTK deck and you just have to hand trap them and one hand trap is not enough, you need two, you need three or whatever, right? Could you even play White Forest in that format? I think that is sort of the question we're trying to answer here. Can you play 18 hand traps? Is it completely viable, or should you not consider it when building White Forest? Like, is it incompatible with the engine, or is it fine? And the second part is I want to look at the different hand traps that are sort of in contention or viable, and look at, are there any hand traps that do something for the White Forest engine? Like, are there any hand traps that actually synergize with White Forest and, provide value apart from just being a hand trap? Like, for example, with the Black Goat Laughs, right? It's like a kind of a board breaker, but that functions really well with the White Forest engine, because you of course send the Black Goat last for cost, and it can activate in the graveyard, right? So it synergizes really well with the White Forest gimmick. And I wanted to sort of explore, are there hand traps that can do a similar thing in White Forest, in similar thing. And also on a more generic perspective, can hand traps actually help out White Forest with playing sometimes? Like, so that's like the complete opposite. Like, first we're just gonna try to figure out if hand traps can even play full hand traps in White Forest. And if the answer is yes, then we're gonna sort of try to explore is there advantages apart from 18 hand traps, like, because that's just a meta choice, right? But are there inherent advantages to playing hand traps in White Forest? Yeah, so maybe this video today is gonna be a bit long. I hope that's okay. I don't even know what I'm asking. It's just my own stupid channel that no one watches. But I'm very excited for it. I was at work today and I've been thinking about it for most of the day, and been thinking about what I wanted to say. And we are also gonna cover the chorizo. I did get to make a proxy. Because I do feel like this is actually very related to the topic today. So we'll spend some time on this card as well. I know I said I wanted to make a separate video on Magister's Chorizo, and we might still do that if there's more to discuss after this video. But it will probably be a bit later, because I do also want to do a part 3 in this sort of mini series about board breakers, right? Because that is actually where I feel like I have the home turf. I know a lot about board breakers in White Forest, not too much about hand traps in White Forest. So yeah, and to help me today, I have my Moomin thermo cup with a actually pretty strong coffee. I think I haven't tried it yet, but I did make it a little bit stronger, just because I'm kind of tired after work. I was like at the office at 7 a.m. and I tried to not drink a ton of coffee so that I could get this coffee once I got home. So I've been kind of very tired at work, but I'm hoping that this coffee will boost me up and give me a lot of energy for this video, apart from my own excitement. So yeah, let me have a sip. Okay, so I just took like 3 sips in a row. Felt like I needed the energy. So let's get started, and let's just move this out of the way and just zoom in a bit on our hand traps. And I'll just go over each one very briefly, because I'm sure you all know what these cards do and how they're useful. Plus, all these hand traps will be format dependent, so I am only like, these are only the ones I'm considering in this format. So, it's not every hand trap ever made. It's just the ones that I am considering playing in this format. And, of course, we start out with the best, right? The goat, the ash blossom. Of course, probably the strongest hand trap in terms of the range of things it can negate. And then, of course, it also has the effect of being able to stop the Molchamis when you go first. So even has a ton of going first application. And I think this card is the main reason to be on hand traps. Like, if you want to play this card, but it feels awkward to play it without any other hand traps, right? Because it does never really one ash. It's never really enough to stop your opponent unless they bricked. And so yeah, that's just, I see Ash Blossom as the main reason to be in hand traps, and I guess we'll follow that up with the other main reason, I guess, to be in hand trap. So I don't even know. You can play this as a board breaker as well, right? It's Infinite Impermanence. It's probably one of the best cards in the game. Doesn't enable thrust, doesn't enable talents when you use it. Great going first also. It is a trap card, like, so you can send it for cost with your White Forest Monster. So all my worries that I've been talking about is just not at all present with this card. And so this card is yet another reason why you're just like, oh, I want to be playing hand traps because of Infinite Impermanence and Ash Blossoms. And when I do this video, I will be playing 18 hand traps in a around 40 card deck. Let's see, let's look into it. I want to be playing 18 hand traps just because I feel like that is what the meta decks are doing right now. Some are only playing 15, right? So you could say, oh, if we found out that, you know, it's way too inconsistent, you brick on monsters, then we can try turning it down to 15. But spoiler alert, I don't think we will need to. Because I've also been doing a bit of research, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The main thing is that we are playing 18 hand traps, but 3 of them will be Infinite Impermanence, and therefore it will be a trap card. And so we are really only playing 15 monsters, which, you know, still sounds a lot to me. So I see these 2 cards as the main reason to want to go into hand traps, and you could even maybe just play these 6 and then maybe another hand traps and then split it up into board breakers that like do a mix of the 2, and that is what I have done in locals lately, and it has been working out pretty well. But yeah, so I see those as tier 1, and then I think we go into oh yeah, I should maybe also include Fuwalos as a tier 1 thing. I have a hard time whether or not to classify this as a hand trap, because I mean, it is a monster card and you are using it in your opponent's turn, but you are not really stopping your opponent in the truest sense of the word. You are not really negating anything or destroying anything. You usually use it like in their standby phase, so not even in response to any effect activation, so it's kind of hard to call that a trap, right? But the main reason I'm including it here is that if I would be playing hand traps, I think I would be maining this, because there's just very little downside in our deck to maining this card, because we do have the Witch and the Deception, and we can just tribute it, and it could be actually useful for us to do that. So I just like not a ton of downside to getting this in our hand when we go first. Of course, it is a brick, right? I mean, but most hand traps are when you go first. So yeah. And so I don't know whether to consider this a hand trap or a board breaker. In all actuality, I will probably have this in both my hand trap and board breaker video. But I thought it made sense to include it here because it's a monster card, right? And we are really like, it's not, this video is not really about hand traps. If you think about it, it's more about playing a lot of monster cards in White Forest. Like you could just play like yeah, that's basically what it's all about. We're just gonna try to see if we cannot, like, if we lose too much consistency putting in some monster cards, or if it's fine. And then we're gonna mess around a bit with some funny interactions. So yeah, and I would also consider this tier 1, like on par with these. I think these 9 are the best sort of hand traps. I know I just said that I wasn't really convinced that this was a hand trap, but yeah. And for the tier 2 hand traps, I think that we have Effect Veiler actually at the top here. And that is primarily because it's a light spellcaster and it has some very nice interactions, as we will see. This is probably the hand traps that actually synergize with our deck. And so not only is it a competitive hand trap, like decks are playing this, you know, sometimes you see, I look at topping deck lists and they are cutting the effect veiler for something else, but a lot of times if you are playing a lot of hand traps, you're probably also playing effect veiler. So yeah, it's like, I think it sort of gets to the top of tier 2 because of our synergies with our engine. I think if it wasn't for that, then I would put probably Nibiru at the top of tier 2, but I do think that this is pretty accurate. Of course, Nibiru, I'm pretty bad at using this cast because I always forget to count. And so I'm actually not very practiced with using hand traps, so yeah. But I mean, it seems to be super powerful. It's obviously best if you pair it, right? Because they can, like, if you're against Fiendsmith, they can make like Caesar before they do their other combos. But then sometimes, you know, they don't have the Caesar, or you have the infinite impermanence of the effect veilers to negate the Caesar, and it's just really punishing, right? And against a lot of the, like, I got a bunch of rogue decks who doesn't set up an Omni negate particularly early, this just can win the game on its own, right? So I feel like that's pretty powerful. Then I do want to put Bestials as the last tier 2 hand trap. Just because I feel like they are pretty conditional, right? But I feel like they do sort of like stop. They work against Fiendsmith like super well. They can also work against Twin of the Eclipse when you're playing against Reichel. I do think that the Mitsurugi deck can have, you know, some weakness to Bestials. I don't know exactly how weak they are to Bestials, but they are all dark and they do sometimes send their boss monster to the graveyard. So I don't know if there's a choke point there. I'm not actually experienced enough to say that. But I do think that they are really strong also at just outing a detonator, like specifically Treesworm, right? And they're also really nice because they help you make a Chaos Angel. So they synergize with White Forest Engine, actually. And they also, you can also make the Sparta, right? If you are getting bestialed by your opponent, then bestials themselves become pretty strong, because then you can run the Sparta and you can just summon back whatever they bestialed away from you. So I think in a meta where people are running a ton of bestials, we do gain a lot from running the bestials, and they do synergize pretty nicely with our engine as well. And then we have Droller Lockbird, and this was actually not really on my radar, but unfortunately it does seem like this card is going to be popular in the upcoming format. I say unfortunately because of course it's really good against us, but it does also seem to be pretty good against Mitsurugi. And also pretty good against Reichel, right? Not really good against Fiendsmith, I don't think so, unless they specifically open with, like, Engraver. And also pretty good against Crystron, I think. Although I'm not entirely sure on that, but I've heard so. And then, of course, it's also really good against a bunch of rogue decks like Mermail and I guess also White Forest, right? So I do think that tier 3 probably to me means side decking. So I do think that is a top choice for the side deck probably in the upcoming format. And then here we have the new Multi-Army Meowls, and this is the one that draws you a card every time you... Oh, Elvira is screaming right now. I don't know if you heard it. But this is the one that draws a card every time you summon from, or your opponent summons from graveyard advantage. And I know it's really good against Malice. I don't know how good, and I think it's also really good against Mitsurugi, actually. I don't know about the other decks. I feel like against Fiendsmith, you like get a draw of the Engraver. So like, it's not terrible, right? But it's not crazy good either. And then I've also heard that this is pretty good to draw as your 6th card, right? And that makes a lot of sense if your opponent is sort of... A lot of decks are summoning cards from their graveyard on your turn, like to provide this layered interruption. And yeah, so you could even use this like when you're going 2nd and you draw it as your 6th card. So I feel like it's gonna be pretty good. However, I'm not entirely sure how good. And then the last one, which I'm most unsure about, is Perulia. It's not that I don't think that it's a strong card. I do actually think that it's a pretty strong card. Like, it's good against Rachel. And yeah, it's just that I don't see how... I think this is a bit of a meta thing. I don't see how we get space for this in our deck or our side deck, to be honest, because one card I didn't include here was Lancia. I should have included Lancia. Actually, let me just go find Lancias. My Lancias. Yeah. Here. Yeah, I should have included the Lancias, and I guess I'll say that these are definitely the top of the side deck. I'm so scared of Malice, and then I will just move this down here, like this, and then Perulia is like out here where I don't know if you could, because I cannot see myself making room for more than 9 of these cards going 2nd, like, or in my side deck, because we do also need our going 1st things we can side in, even if it's not too many, even just 3 cards, right? And then I do think we also need some silver bullets, like a D-barrier or a artifact sanctum or something. But I guess you maybe you wouldn't need that if you're just playing hand traps, you're not playing thrust. I'm just so used to playing thrust that I'm thinking about these one-offs in the side deck, like silver bullets. I guess if you're playing hand traps, you might not even care, and you could maybe also play the Brolia. I don't know. I would probably still choose to play some silver bullets over Perulia, but maybe Perulia is the silver bullets, so I don't know. But these are the ones we're going to be testing today. I think none of these here in tier 3 in the main deck, but these 18... yeah, that is 18. I think we're going to be trying out with these 18 when we do our testing. And I guess I forgot to mention this, but Droll and Lockbird is actually also a spellcaster, right? It's not a light spellcaster, but, you know, maybe it can be used to make Droll also. So I think we'll maybe discuss that as well at some point. Alright, that was just the hand traps I'm considering currently. These are all sort of side deck options. I guess I'll just put Lancia away right now. And, oh, Elvira has arrived. So let's just take these and put them like over here. Then we have these 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 hand traps that we are going to be testing with. And let me just have a bit of coffee. Now, I do not think that it is totally fair to just do this without at least modifying our engine lineup at least somewhat to sort of accommodate running all these monster cards. So let's just see here. Oh, and we are not running Thrust or Black God Laughs. Goodbye, rest in peace. I really like these cards though. So we are definitely going to be running 3 Sylvie, right? Basically always do that. It's the starter that sort of we don't need to -1 when it gets hand trapped, and we are also playing 3 set. You know, pretty standard. And then we are playing the 1 Rusha, just because it is pretty powerful to get into rotation. Where do we even have it? Do I not play it in this build? Oh, it's right there. Oh, sorry. That was cringe. And then I can see us, in terms of Estella, I can totally see us not running this card if we are playing all these hand traps, because this is like one of the main casualties of having a ton of monster cards is your Estella, right? Because you just open Estella and you have no spells and traps to send. Or you have like a spell or trap, but you just can't afford it to send it. Like you have a wanted, for example, you need to activate the wanted. You and then you summon your Black Witch, and then that gets impermed, and you're stuck, right? But I do want to have at least one of these in my deck, because I do use it in my combos. So if I'm actually going to run 18 hand traps, I do still want that to be viable with at least 1 copy of Estella. And then at least 1 copy of Asamina set, of course. And, you know, I said I wanted to do a bit of research, right? And I have been doing a bit of research. I've actually been watching some deck profiles of other people playing White Forest Asamina. I swear, I am the only one on planet Earth that is running 3 tails. Like, I don't get it, and it kind of made me lose confidence a bit, because you see all these, okay, I won my local pre-release event or something like that, like 5-0 White Forest Asamina list, and they are just all of them only playing 1. And I'm just I feel so sure about running 3. And I think I will continue doing that, but it does take a bit of courage for me to do that when it seems like nobody else is doing it. And of course, this is the card you can brick on, right, when you don't have a spellcaster to put on the field. I get that, but it's also one of our starters, right? So, and I don't think we are running too many. Like, we're running 7 starters here. Like, adding 3 extra ways to get to a White Forest monster, I seriously cannot see how it is bad. And I do think that when we are running, like, let's see here, right, we are running these witches and these deceptions in order to put a spellcaster or illusion on the field, right? And another thing is that most people are only running 1 deception, and I sure, right, I can see it, because it's pretty bad going second. I just feel like if you're only playing, I don't think it's that bad to hard draw, honestly. Like, it's like, when you play this deck, you notice that you are pretty weak to Ash Blossom, in the sense that you have a lot of cards that needs to resolve that get hit by Ash Blossom. Like Elset is really punishing for it to get Ash Blossomed, and, you know, Tails also are Searcher. And then this card was also really dangerous for it to get Ash Blossomed, right? So, but I just think it's really great to have this card in your hand as a follow-up when your Witch gets negated. Because I do think that if your Witch gets negated, and then I don't know, I guess you can still get to this card using a Seminal set as a synchro material. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm personally, I think I will be playing 2. I think 1 is like, I don't know. I can't really see why, but I think it's also because a lot of the decks I guess all the decks I've been watching, deck profiles I've been watching, has been Fiendsmith, White Forest, And so maybe they're cutting Deception down to play more, like to play the Fiendsmith engine. Maybe that's the reason. But I don't really see why you would play only one copy, because I do think this is a really strong card going first. Like, it just lets you play. This is what they're probably most of the time trying to stop you from getting to. And if you just hard open it, then you can bait out the hand traps and then slam it. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but today I think we'll be playing 3 because it does synergize nicely with hand traps, right? So in a build where I'm playing like 15 monster hand traps and 3 imperms, I think I would play 3 Deception, just because I feel like just, you know, in theory, it smooths out your draw a ton. So I don't know. And then we are still playing a witch, and I was also considering just playing a second witch. And then let me just get through the rest of the non-engine, like, or the rest of the engine, I should say, like one of the woes, the Sinful Spoils, and the Hellod. So I think today maybe we'll try playing just 2 witches instead. I don't think I would do that in the final build. I think I would play the second as a Minal set over it. So maybe we should not, like, yeah, I don't know, actually. Maybe what I will do is, play 2 witch and 2 as Milo said, and then just go a bit above, go a bit above 40. I don't actually know. But the idea is just that Black Witch, of course, is nice with hand traps, and I want to give this the best chances. Like, I don't want to, you know, be this kind of person who's like, see, it didn't work, and then just, you know, because I obviously didn't make the version that could make it work, right? So I think maybe we'll just do this. There is some nice interaction with Asamina's set and Effect Vela, right? You can, it's not super fancy, you just use it to fusion summon. But maybe I'll do that afterwards when I check out this sort of individual card interactions. So let's just say we are doing these, and you know that is 23, and so that will bring us up to 41 when we add these 18 hand traps. And I think that's a fine place to be, right? yeah. So let me just give it a good shuffle. As I said, I was like surprised to see people only playing 1 Deception. But I think maybe it is because of they're playing Fiendsmith cards instead. So yeah, could also be just because they think that it's just it's not good going second, which is true, or they feel like it's maybe not needed because you can get to it so easily. Like, you can get to it with Asamina set, and you can get to it with the Bellstar, and I guess that's true, you can get to it pretty easily, but I guess it can also be pretty bad in multiples, right? If you can't get to the fusion spell, then this is pretty bad. Of course, this is the one that gets you the fusion spell, but like, yeah. So I don't really know. I think it might be just that they don't want to. Yeah, maybe they just see it as a brick and they see it as a one-off, and they don't want to run multiples. I can see that it, like, there is no, like, from a engine requirements perspective, right? There should be no real reason to run more than one, right? So in that sense, there's no like reason to go more than one. But do you feel like when you're trying to push through hand traps, it's a pretty powerful hard draw to have? Like it can just completely bait out the ash blossom, or you can bait the ash with something else and then just slant this, right? And it also makes you less reliant on resolving Diabell Star, so you can use a Diabell Star as a like bait most often. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe maybe it's just not needed because you're so sure of getting to Asminal set. And, you know, if you get to Asminal set and you get to Synchro Summon, you get the Deception no matter what, right? So maybe it's just that it's so easy to get to Asminal set and it's so easy to Synchro Summon using a... so that you will just always get this and there's never any need to hard draw it. But I don't know, that does not seem right. Like, getting to Asminal set means you have to either open White Forest or, yeah, basically you have to do your White Forest combo, right? But so, yeah, I don't know, maybe it is true. Maybe one is completely fine and you should not play more, but maybe I'll do a dedicated video on that, I guess. It's not really the topic for today. Although it did confuse me a bit. I'm not really trying to play 3 copies, or maybe I am actually, and then just side them out going second, but I don't know, this is getting like a bit out of hand. Let's just see here what we draw. And the way I will do this, let me get some coffee. The way that I will do this is that, because we're not necessarily trying to figure out if our hand is in... What we're trying to figure out is, does this hand have issues specifically because of the fact that we have too many monster cards, right? So nothing like we should basically look at our hand, be able to swap every hand trap we have out with a random ass board breaker, like a Dark Ruler no more or something like that, and that should fix the hand. That is what we're looking like. How many hands is that true? How many hands do we draw where if only we had any spell card we could send to the graveyard, we'd be good, but because we have these monsters, we're down bad, right? So I do want to see also if it can play through hand traps and stuff like that, but I don't want to turn this into, you know, is 18 non-engine too much for White Forest? Because that's a whole other discussion we can have, right? And that will be, if we draw a hand with too few engine pieces and too many like hand traps, and we can't play through any hand traps because of that, it's not really the hand traps fault. It's more so that, hey, we're playing a lot of non-engine and sometimes we open like 4 hand traps and 1 starter, and the starter gets interrupted, and, you know, hey, that's not about the hand traps or board breakers. You know, we could also have drawn 4 board breakers and the same would have happened. So yeah, trying to see if the fact that their monsters are specifically hurting us. So I'll put my deck up here so that I have more space for the graveyard. Let's put the extra deck here, and let's just say that our opponent has an Ash and an Imperm, right? Like, let's just say, like, I'm not gonna do like, because I do think like, oh, if we draw too much non-engine and we can't play through 2 hand traps, well, you know, then that's not really necessarily the hand trap's fault. We're trying to figure out if it's, you know, the fact that they're monsters. I have said that like a million times, but let's just use it as a base that our opponent sits with these 2, and, you know, usually we should be able to play through this. but maybe with too many non-engine here. Let's see. So we draw an imperm, an effect veiler, a druid swarm, a hallowed Asamina, and a Moljami Voalis. So yeah, exactly what I mentioned. Actually, our only engine card is our one-off that doesn't get us anywhere. Well, that is one loss for one loss for the engine count, right? Like, and let's keep track here. Actually, I have this just the Tradea proxy. Let's just on the back side of this do a bit of record keeping. So we say like a I don't even know what this is called. A check mark is we can play, and it did not matter that the non-engine we had was monster cards. Like, yeah. And then 2 check marks is we can play through, and we can play through these 2 hand traps. And then I'll do 1 cross, which means that we were not able to play let's just do 1 cross and nothing else, and that's just we were not able to play. No, let's do 2 crosses and say 2 crosses means we were not able to play, and it was specifically because that that we had a monster that should have been a spell, just any spell or trap. So yeah, one thing is that we can play. 2, like we could just play, and it was fine that we drew the hand traps we drew. 2, we can actually play through these 2 hand traps over here, and discard. We can do 1 cross means that we cannot play, and 2 crosses, that means that we could not play, and it was exactly because we had hand traps instead of board breakers. Okay, so I guess that would be just one cross here. We were not able to play, but it was not really because that we had a lot of monsters in our hand. Not really. It was simply because we didn't draw any engine, and that is maybe, you know, a sign of, hey, maybe 18 non-engine is too much, or maybe we should put in more engine and still play 18. That's sort of a math kind of thing, right? How it works out the best way, but no matter what, that hand was definitely an example of drawing too much non-engine and not enough engine, and just bricking, right? Because the engine piece we drew was actually just a brick. Okay, let's try again. Here we have an Ash Blossom, a Woes, a Nibiru, and an Infinite Impermanence, and an LZ. Hey, okay, we actually drew. We actually did draw some engine here. And here, of course, we just go LZ, send the Woes, and that will get hand trapped with Ash Blossom, and then the Woes will set itself, and we'll normal summon probably just normal summon the Stella here, and we do have the Woes, and we do have the LZ. So I'd say this is like, we were definitely able to play here. We did get stopped. We do actually have 3 non-engine in our hand. We do have the Woes set for our opponent's turn. So I would say that this is a playable hand. It did not break through the double hand trap, but definitely not because of our monsters, not at all. So yeah. Okay, let's try another hand. Okay, let's see. Hash Blossom, an Elset, a Deception, a Rusia, and a Nibiru. Interesting. So, yeah, let me just have some coffee. And I do think this is an example of why I like just hard drawing Deception sometimes, right? It is kind of the card that saves us here. Because we obviously start off with the Deception, and I guess it's actually a good thing that we have monsters in our hand now to tribute. And I'm guessing what we will be tributing is the Nibiru. Yeah. So let's tribute the Nibiru, and this will probably get ashed. At least if I were my opponent, I would ash this, because this does prevent access to the fusion spell. But then we can, of course, go LZ, send this Deception. So that's the nice thing, right? You can activate it, get rid of a monster, bait out the Ash Blossom, and then you still have it. Like, even if it doesn't resolve, you still have it on the field as a send, right? So I really think that Deception saves these hand trap heavy hands. You go LZ here, and you grab out. Well, actually, I was about to just get Sylvie, just take Sylvie, and play her. But since we drew Rusia, actually maybe the play is to grab out Azimina, said, to be honest, because then even if our if we grab Sylvie, she would just get impermed, right? And we would be stuck. In this scenario, well, we don't really... Yeah, okay. So we summon Rusia, and we summon Asaminel set, right? And now we are like in a bit of... We kind of wish this Ash Blossom was... we kind of wish this Ash Blossom was a spell or trap, right? Because then we would actually have something to send to the graveyard to activate our Rigiella. So it doesn't make too much sense to go into Rigiella here. So I guess what we will be going into is we could either go Silvera, and then we could go into Dabble. Or we could go into a Muddy Mud Dragon, and then we could make a Saint Asamina once we summon out. Oh, actually, let me actually do the other line here where we go. Yeah, let me do this, because we can't really get to the fusion spell right now. We should be aware of that. Or we can, but we need to do it in a sort of... no, we need to do it in a very particular way, actually. We actually need to do, as Aminel said, to fusion summon here. For us to summon Murcielago, and then get to the fusion spell in that way. But I don't know if that's worth it, because then we are also losing access to our synchro plays. So let's just do this instead, and then we just go into like a a silver. Where is she? Did I? Oh, it's right in front of me. I should be looking on my iPhone instead. And then we go here. Doesn't really make sense to search for deception because we already used it. So let's just search for wanted here. And we can really just use wanted, right? And go for a diversity. Then right here, we could definitely go for a send this ash blossom to the graveyard, and then they will probably imperm the witch, right? And then maybe we should not have done it. I'm not entirely sure, actually. Like, we could also just have searched the fusion spell, and then just chilled a bit on the fusion spell. But this does, yeah, maybe we should have done that, actually. Because now we just have this diversity and it doesn't really do anything. And we did discard our ash blossom, like, to the graveyard. And I guess we do get a draw here, so we kind of just cycled our ash blossom for something else. Let's see if we, instead of wanted, grabbed the fusion spell and went into a Diabell. Then we could have summoned back the Rusia and then used Diabell and Rusia and to fusion summon out the Murcielago. Then our Diabell would be in the graveyard, however, and what would the Murcielago even do for us? I don't know really what it would do. It could add the fusion spell, and if we added back the deception with Diabell, then that maybe could make an Ilia Silvera, but I think our input would have just been too weak, right? Then our Diabell is just in the graveyard. There's no way to get her back, so I think maybe this is fine. This is, I mean, obviously we also didn't know that they had the imperm, like, speaking, like, from that perspective, right? So maybe what we do here is that we just use the wanted and we draw, and I guess we were lucky, right? We drew the tails. Well, what do we even... I guess we haven't even normal summoned Sylvie yet, so we can just normal summon Sylvie here. And go grab Woes, then go into Riziella and do stuff from there, right? So, yeah, I guess that we got a bit saved by this tails being our draw for turn. I'm guessing... I think also just, you know, just ending on a Diabell. Oh, sorry, Elvira is going crazy right now. It's maybe not the worst thing in the world. So I'll say that this hand could play through 2 hand traps. However, I do want to be like would have been nice if hand trap was spell trap. Like, if our Ash Blossom here was a spell or trap card, we would definitely have been happier and our combo would have been a lot better. But this was still totally serviceable, right? Even if we did not get that lucky top deck. And maybe I also didn't play this optimally, right? Like, I could definitely see that. So let's just give it a good shuffle this time. since we did kind of search our library and stuff like that. That was a pretty interesting hand. I don't know if going for the Bellstar was the correct play, but I think it was because we needed to bait out the imperm. Anyway, maybe they would not even have impermed, and since they knew we had gone for the deception, and so they would just have let it gone. And then it's like, what can you set that could scare you? And I guess we just set the fusion spell. So yeah, maybe even if they didn't imperm it, it wouldn't have been that particularly amazing. I don't actually know. But what I do know is that Deception was kind of nice at baiting out the Ash Blossom in that scenario. Okay, let's see here. We have Tails, Diabellstar, Effect Veiler, Ash Blossom, Effect Veiler. Oh, interesting. Okay. Let me just get some coffee. Okay, so this is a pretty interesting hand. I do think that it's pretty good, right? What we do here is that we just send off the Effect Veiler, because we have to anyway, for the Diabellstar. Then our Diabellstar will get impermed. And then here, right, we pretty much just have to do Tails here, and that will get ashed. However, and I think this is super cool, we do have a normal summon Effect Veiler, and that is a tuner, right? So we can actually just go into our Diabell here, which is super cool. Like with these two, we can make Diabell. However, I think Ash again in our hand right now, and even though we made our Diabell, we can't actually use their effect because there was not a synchro tuner used to make her, and also we can't use a secondary effect on our opponent's turn because we don't have any spells and traps, right? So maybe let's back up a bit and see if we could have done this differently in some way. I do think, and I also want to say that, of course, if we don't get hand trapped twice here, then this hand is of course just full combo, right? You know, we just grab Sylvie with this, and this gets Deception, and we can just fully wombo here, right? So, but I'm not too interested in that. I think that would be way too easy if we don't get interrupted, right? That is not the situations where you'd wish your hand trap was a spell. Like, obviously, when you go uninterrupted, these cards can be whatever, right? These cards can be whatever. And actually, it's probably good that they are hand trapped, because then we have 3 hand traps to end on, right? In addition to our full card combo, right? But it's just, we need to see, in order to find out whether these would have been more useful as monsters, we need to see what happens when we get interrupted. And this scenario, it does seem like it, like we sent here, we sent the, it doesn't make sense to send Ash or the Tails, I think. Send the Effect Veiler, and she gets impermed, and we use the Tails, and I don't, we could also just not use the tail and then just have it on our opponent's turn, like, but that is sort of only a play you would make if you knew your opponent didn't have Ash, right? Because, I mean, yeah, you would always go for the activation of Tails in this position, unless you exactly knew that your opponent had Ash Blossom in hand, maybe. Then you could normal summon this, make Diabell, and have this as your discard, right? But I will say that the neat interaction with Effect Wheeler came up here, right? Normal summon and then make the bell. You could also do... I know that this doesn't lead anywhere, but you can do Artemis, right? Effect Wheeler is a level 4 lower spellcaster, so you make Artemis, and then you use these two to make Choozo, right? Because that just needs an extra deck monster plus a spellcaster. And then you have your level 4 tuner also. So that's just, I mean, two of the cool Effect Wheeler interactions, and one of the reasons that I think Effect Wheeler is super neat in this deck, right? Obviously it did actually kind of help us here, right? But we kind of wished our Ash Blossom was a spell card. So here I'm gonna say, hey, we could definitely play, and we could not get the double check mark, right? We couldn't get through 2 hand traps, and it would have been nice if the Ash Blossom was a trap card. That would have been nice here. Then I would maybe actually have said that, hey, we played through 2 hand traps if that Ash Blossom was any spell or trap card. Yeah. So far so good. Let's try more. I think this is a very cool thing actually. I really wanted to see some of the Effect Wheeler interactions, and they did come up here, although they did not really save us. Although they might have if we had a spell and trap. I think that then it would actually have been pretty nice. So yeah. Not like these hand traps can't do anything for us at all. But let's see. Deception, Wanted, Elset, Rusha, Ash Blossom. Okay, so I think we can shorthand this a bit and say that this definitely does play through 2 hand traps. Would be my guess, at least. Yeah, right, because we go Wanted and we get the Diabell Star. Let's just do it. Then we go then we just go Diabell Star, summon out, send the Ash Blossom, right? And they will impermanent. And then I think we just do Deception here. We just slam Deception and we tribute it. Or maybe we... Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess we don't see our... Asamina stuff again. Or let me see if I can actually get to the Asamina stuff, but I do feel like we're pretty forced in this situation to activate Deception, right? It doesn't make sense to send it to the graveyard with Elset before even activating it, because then our Elset will get ashed. So let's just do this, tribute the Black Witch, and they will use the Ash on this, right? They kind of, I mean, they have to. And then we go Elset, send this to the graveyard, summon her out. We go for our Sylvie. We go Sylvie at Tails. We just say these 2 into Rushiala. We send the Tails and probably just add Woes here. The Tails will set itself. We will activate it. We will activate it. Oh, I'm looking for my extra deck. We will grab... yeah, since we have gone through a Deception and our Black Witch, I don't think it makes sense to get Estella here. We will just get this card, and here we could actually use Asamina set to fusion summon. we do summon the Asmina set out, right? And let's see. Is there any way to get our level 2 body if we choose to fusion summon? I don't know, actually. If we don't fusion summon, right, we go into our DFL here, and then I guess we just search our fusion spell, right? And we end on woes, and then we can maybe do some link stuff with Russia. We could maybe make a link 2 or something like that. If we go Russia and then fusion summon more Isiolago, then we add the fusion spell. We could add the Asamina, hallowed Asamina. Then, but we don't have any simple spells, and we don't have any level 2 anymore to go into Diabel. So yeah, I don't see that, and the only way we could get to an extra level 2 body would be to somehow get to Estella, or you make a cross sheep and then do something. But I do notice here that we haven't used our wanted draw yet. But let's just go for this pretty obvious line. Maybe there was something fancy you could have done there, but I don't think I would have seen it in the moment. So let's see. Chainlink 1, as Amina said. Chainlink 2, Diabel. And probably just add back the tails here. And we go add our fusion spell. There. And now I think we can go summon out Rusha. I guess I do want to do the wanted draw now in case we draw like a stellar. No, I don't think a stellar would change. Oh, I guess we can use the fusion spell now to make our Murcielago. But does that even lead us anywhere? Maybe we should have added the deception to our hand, and then we could have maybe made Murcielago search the Asamina. Okay, so let's just try it, because this line is basically just we get a bunch of draws. We get a draw of Russia, we get a draw of Wanted, and then we turn the Russia, plus we have a summon back of Sylvie from the graveyard. We turn those two into a like probably an IP Masquerina, like something like that, right? And then we just pass on that. And that would be pretty good. We draw 2 cards. We have Sinful Spoils of the White Forest and Woes of the White Forest. We have Tails in hand. We have 2 extra draws, which could be more pushes, or could be, non-engine. So I'll definitely say that this hand played through 2 hand traps. But let's just try and see what happens if we do this, just because I think it would be funny. So maybe we just say use our Russia draw now, right? Yeah, just because I don't think we'll get the chance to later, so we draw an extra tails, sure. And we set back our woes. Then let's use our fusion spell here. And let's say, let me correct this. In this line of play, we should have probably added back the deception instead of the tails. And then we use the fusion spell, and we get to Murcielago, and that will add us our hallowed Asamina, right? Could also be, as Aminel said, although we have already used her effect. So this goes to the graveyard here. And then I guess we say, okay, activate deception. And then we say activate. And although, no, I think we... yeah, so here we just make the... Maybe what we do right here is that we make... Maybe what we do right here is that we make a crush sheep. Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that. I could definitely see us making a crush sheep here. But I do think we'll go for the draw first. So that we could potentially draw another Sinful Spoil spell and we could go into Saint Asmina here. Yeah, I think so. So let's use the draw, targeting our fusion spell, put it on the bottom, and draw a card. Okay, we drew Sylvie. Don't know if that's useful for anything. But let's say we use Sylvie here to shuffle back and summon, and then we do these two. Guess we could also have made a Chaos Angel right there into a Crush Sheep, and then we go Hallowed here, and we make the Elias Silvera here, and we do get the trigger here from the Crush Sheep. So let's just summon back, as Aminel said here. And what will we then do? So now, now I do see here that we are pretty goddamn close to making making Saint Asmina. Maybe no, we could not have done it without making Crush Sheep. So if we just are able to get this on the board, right, and but we aren't we can't. We could use Asmina to fusion summon out. Like to fusion summon the... Oh, maybe the Choroso? No, I don't see the Choroso being live in any way. Definitely interesting. Not currently seeing the line here to get an extra body, because that is just what we want to do in this situation. But I think you could maybe just do, say, these two into a Nightmare Unicorn, and then do these two into an Abao, right? And you just use a bow here. I guess in this situation, actually, I will just do Hallowed, shuffle back the as Aminel said, and I'll just do well, which one of these would we like to send? Because I do actually think that Fusion Spell is also pretty nice to have on our hand. So let's just discard the Sylvie for a bow, and summon back our Diabelle. And then during the end phase, our Deception will set itself. And that will be it, right? And then a bow will come back and we can use her then maybe during the standby phase and send this deception, this woes tails for cost to summon back the Ilia Sylvia, and then the tails will set itself. So this was sort of, instead of ending on an IP Masquerina and a fusion spell, and I do think it worked out pretty nice. We have a bow in rotation, which will just help us a ton in the grind game. We did also get our Omni Negation. Don't have our field spell anymore, but we have I feel like a ton of follow-up still. But yeah, okay, so that was way too long time to spend on that kind of combo. Obviously, this played through 2 hand traps. We just had a bunch of engine, right? And would it have been nice if hand trap was spell trap? Nope, it did not matter at all. Yeah, okay. Let's maybe try to move a bit faster from now and not do the entire combo, because I just wanted to do it because I just really like comboing with this deck, and I like these, you know, I do like playing against hand traps in the sense that we get these sort of challenges like small puzzles, not like and I do think it's also a bit more interesting and more realistic to try to combo underneath or when you're up against hand traps. But obviously it did not really, like, we drew 4 engine cards and an Ash Blossom, and obviously it didn't matter at all whether or not that Ash Blossom was a spell or not. So let's try to speed it a bit up again. I had a little too much fun with that combo. Okay, so let's see. Infinite Impermanence, Fuelas, Woes, Sylvie, Dibelstar. I see. So obviously this cannot play through 2 hand traps because we only have 2 engine cards. But it can still end on a Sylvie plus Woes, right? And that is fine, right? You just go Molchami, Dibelstar set a Molchami, that will get Infinite Impermanence. Then you go normal summon the Sylvie. That will get Ash, you said it was, and Imperm, and you get right. Do we say that this plays through 2 hand traps? No, I would not say that this played through 2 hand traps, but I will say that it was able to play. And did it matter that it was hand traps? Nope, not at all. So yeah. Let's just put these in randomly. Oh, what are these? Oh, these are the these need to stay here. All right. Okay, that was like that was just like we drew the like we would have needed a 3rd piece of engine in order to break through 2 hand traps. That's often the case, right? You need 3 engine pieces to break through 2 hand traps most of the time. Alright, let's see. Nibiru, Rusha, Sylvie, Effect Veiler, Tails. Alright. This can definitely play through 2 hand traps, but it is kind of unfortunate that we don't have another spell, right? Because what will happen is that we will normal summon the Sylvie, which will get... No, it can't really play through 2 hand traps, actually. Our Sylvie will get impermed. Then we would summon out our Rusha, we would use our Rusha effect, send this tails to the graveyard to draw a card, but I mean, then the tails would send itself back, we activate it, and we get ashed here, and so we only have these 2 level 4s, which doesn't do anything. Let's see if our Rusha draw would have saved us. No, it was just another 4 less. So only thing really we could maybe use these would be like a Silhouette Rabbit or a Visa Samritara or something like that. So that's just a case of Rusha not necessarily matching super well with Sylvie. So we did draw 3 engine pieces, but we were not able to play through both interruptions. So I'd still say that this was able to play, and I don't think that it was hindered because of any of these 3 hand traps. It's more so hindered that because the 3 engine cards we drew were not in the exact combination that could have played through 2 hand traps, right? Of course, if we go uninterrupted, this is obviously full combo. So let's just say that it can play, but not through 2 hand traps. Yeah, let's just continue. I mean, if these were 3 board breakers, and I don't really see how anything really would have changed, to be honest, right? Like, this is still lose to hand traps in that position. Unless you do like, no, I don't see it really. Don't see how we play through both Ash and Veiler with that hand. Alright, let's see. We have Folas, Deception, Infinite Impermanence, Ash Blossom, and Effect Veiler. Whoa! That is just a bunch of non-engine and a Deception, and the Deception will just get ashed, and then we will not really be able to do anything. If the Deception would not have been ashed, could we even do our full combo? Probably. I'm just curious about this. I'm not gonna do the whole thing, but I'm just gonna see if we can use the Magistus Choroso in this case. Because we probably maybe can. Let's see. We tribute the Folas and search the Hallowed. Yeah, because we drew Effect Veil actually. We say Hallowed and we make the Risiolago, and then the Risiolago here will search out our Asamina set. And then we do summon up the Asaminal set, and then we go normal summon Effect Veiler, right? And then we just do whoop these 2 into Choroso, and we do have our discard, right? It was an Infinite Impermanence. We could also have added back the Hallowed to get our spell trap to send to the graveyard for cost for Rishiela. Although that would not have been super nice, obviously. But yeah, Clutch bailed out by the Infinite Impermanence, but also kind of saved by the Effect Veiler, right? I don't know what board breaker would have helped us out in this situation, specifically with a Deception draw, right? Because we needed the Spellcaster normal summon in order to go into Choroso here when we open just Deception. But is it pretty nice that Deception plus Effect Veiler is full combo? And also we needed a monster in our hand to tribute for Deception, so in that sense it was actually nice that we were having a bunch of monsters. Of course, if this Infinite Impermanence would also have been a monster, then it would have been rough, right? But because of that, I'm actually going to say that this was a playable hand. Obviously, did not at all play through 2 hand traps, doesn't even play through 1, but you can't expect that from just a 1 engine card, 4 non-engine cards. I'm pretty happy just being able to play in that situation. So yeah, Effect Veiler just showing again why Effect Veiler is so good. So good. Although you might argue that, hey, in this situation, like when these like, oh, we got saved by Effect Veiler normal summon, that only really comes up if your opponent is not hand trapping you, right? Like usually that kind of hand will just lose to any hand traps, and so it doesn't really matter that you have this Effect Veiler normal summon into Choroso play, because like that will never actually happen, if you get what I mean, right? Like sure, you can technically play with an Effect Veiler and a Deception, but you know, you could lose that game anyway, right? To any number of hand traps, or even just 1 hand trap. So how much does it really matter that you were able to play if you went uninterrupted, when in the realistic case you will get interrupted at least once, right? So yeah, that's maybe a reason to not read too much into these cute interactions. But yeah, let's just see the next hand. We go Fulas, Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, Sylvie, and Ash Blossoms. And this is like the same situation, right? This is obviously combo with our normal summon Sylvie, but not through any hand traps. That's for sure. And would it have changed anything if all of these cards were board breakers instead? Nope, not at all. Actually, it's probably better that they're not, because at least we can use the Ash and the Imperm during our opponent's turn. So yeah, definitely a hand that can play, and definitely not anything that can play through even just 1 hand trap. So yeah, our track record of opening playable hands is really good, which of course is a good sign. That means we have enough starters in our deck. Our track record of being able to play just around through 2 hand traps is, however, not particularly good right now, and that is maybe a sign that we are playing too much non-engine, because we needed to see more engine to play through these hand traps. Or we just got unlucky, I don't know. Let's see. Tails, Devil Star, Deception, Nibiru, Effect Veiler. Initial gut reaction is that this can definitely play through 2 hand traps. Right? We bait the Imperm out with Black Witch by sending out Nibiru. We play the Deception and tribute Veiler in order to bait out the Ash. And then we go Tails and add a Stella. We use Stella, send this to the graveyard, add Sylvie, and we just go from there. And I will say actually that it, again, like Effect Veiler kind of, oh, I guess not necessarily Effect Veiler, just the fact that we had, like, at least one of these sort of had to be a monster, right? Because even if this was some spell trap, random board breaker, we sent to the graveyard, summoned out the Bellstar. Then to activate the Bellstar, we do want a monster in our hand right here, so that we don't have to tribute our Bellstar, because if we have to tribute our Bellstar, then we can't activate our Tails. So yeah, obviously didn't have to be Effect Veiler here. I will say that even like if we tributed the Debilster and they ash this, then it's kind of nice that you can go normal summon Effect Villa and still activate Tails. However, I don't know if that actually, you know. Yeah, I think that would have still been full combo because of Chorizo actually. So Effect Villa just being really clutch here. And in that case, I will actually say that it helped us out that we had at least one of these as a monster. So, you know, maybe not that's not talking in favor of full-on hand traps, but maybe we do want to play at least some monsters for Deception, at least if we play 3 copies of Deception. So 2 check marks for that hand, that's for sure. And that was also a 3-card engine hand. So in general, I feel like 3-card engine where we have 3 different sort of like no duplicates are the hands that are really, really strong and can easily break through 2 hand traps. Yeah. I guess that's not too surprising. Let's see here. Doesn't look good. Yeah. Yeah, this is rough. I mean, it's just unplayable, right? You know, an example of Tails not being activatable. Yeah. Not too much to say here. I feel like that this was just like, if any of these 3 hand traps would have been a Veiler or a Droll and Lockbird, then I do actually think that we could at least play, which is actually kind of cool thing to say, right? So maybe we should play Droll in the main deck because of that. And you know, yeah, like because we would then summon out, let's say it's a Droll, we summon it out, we activate Tails and go get a Stella. Then we activate a Stella and send the Halo Desmina into the graveyard, I feel like. And we go get our Asamina set. And then we have, on the board, we have a Droll and Asamina set and our L set. And we just link one of the 2 spellcasters into an Artemis. And we use Artemis with the other spellcaster to make Chorizo. And then we use... what do you say? We use Asamina set and Chorizo to do Rishiela. I guess we then would have liked a spell in the hand. Yeah. But I'm not gonna... yeah. But I'm not gonna count that as a... like, I'm not gonna mark that on our paper. I'm just gonna say that, hey, we had a hand that could not play. Maybe if we had Droll in our main deck, or maybe if we played a bit more spells and traps as well, then if we drew... yeah. So, you know... but it's hard to say. You can easily come up with combination where it's like, oh, if we only had these cards, then we would be able to play. But then again, you're not gonna be playing through even just 1 interruption, right? So why are you even bothering with these cute plays if they can't even beat 1 hand trap, right? Sure, you have a 3-card combination or 4-card combination when you only open 1 engine card and you are able to play, and that's cool, right? If your opponent somehow didn't open any hand traps, of course they will open hand traps, right? So just prioritizing having a playable hand, I think, is not as important as prioritizing having a lot of hands that can actually play through hand traps. Like, I'm fine with bricking on non-engine once in a while if it just means that when I do draw engine, I can actually play through hand traps. But I mean, maybe it's better than nothing to be able to at least do something, right? Although maybe you're better off not normal summoning the effect veil or the Droll and just keeping it in your hand and passing the turn. Like, instead of trying to play and lose to 1 hand trap, you can keep those cards in your hand and try to survive a turn and maybe top deck some engine instead, right? But I don't know. I think maybe all of this is pointing to the fact that we should be playing more than 22 engine, or more than 23, I guess, engine cards. Like, do you also think that Estella gets a lot better when you're, obviously we took out, like we downgraded to only one Estella, and that is primarily because Estella doesn't really work in this build. I mean, it does, right, if you're lucky and open her with other engine, like Spawns and Traps or Imperm, I guess, specifically. But in general, we are definitely not being able to utilize Estella in this deck very much. So let's see. Which Hallowed, Deception, Woes, and Imperm? Yeah, right, because you go Tibesta, send this, we'll get Impermed, then you go Deception, tribute her, that will get ashed, and then you just had with the Hello Desmina. And then you go into your, here you go into your Mauricio Lago, and what would that do exactly, right? That's maybe the question here. Can we actually full combo in this position? Probably not. Probably not, because we go into Mauricio Lago. What do we add here with Mauricio Lago? Adding Wanted doesn't do too much. We already used Switch. Adding Fusion Spell doesn't do too much. Don't have enough monsters. Adding as a Minel set doesn't really do too much either. Can't make Choroso in this position. Cannot make Choroso in this position because we're forced to tribute this Dibelsa. So, you know, I guess if Woes was a monster, or if Imperm was a monster, then in this situation we could have actually maybe played. Yeah, then we wouldn't have any spell and trap in our hand to send to the graveyard for Rishiela. Oh, we actually would. We could add back the Hello Desamina. Alright, it's just interesting, right? Because sometimes we figure out, oh, we don't have enough spells and traps, and then sometimes we go like, that would have actually been pretty nice if we had an extra monster in this scenario. Like, I guess mainly because of Deception, right? Interesting. So we probably add Mauricio Lago here, and we go add as a mineral set, and then we go set, or maybe we do add Wanted actually, and then just hope to draw something, right? We go Mauricio Lago, add Wanted, we go Hello Desmina, shuffle back the Mauricio Lago, use Hello Desmina, chain Wanted, add this to our hand to summon out our Omni, and then just pray to God we top deck anything. The other situation is just to go Mauricio Lago, add, as Minal said, set the wand, the Woes, and then we have a Woes with the, as Minal said, on the field. That's probably better, but let's just see what we drew. Oh, well, I guess we drew our our starter here, so yeah. What do we say about this? We don't say that this played through 2 hand traps, but it was definitely able to play. Would have been nice if hand trap was spell trap. No, actually, let's do reverse, like the opposite scenario. Yeah, we would actually have liked an extra monster in this situation. So, yeah. very interesting results so far. I feel like this is trending like more and more towards, hey, you should play like a mix, like we were doing, right? But I mean, I guess we'll see tomorrow with the board breaker build how that will go. But I'm definitely seeing a lot of utility from Effect Veiler here, and maybe also Meaning Drawl is crazy. Okay, let's see. Infinite Permanence, Sylvie, Tails, Estella, huh? And another Sylvie. Okay, so this is like nightmare scenario, right? We drew 3 normal summons. And this definitely cannot play through 2 hand traps. Right? Yeah. I mean, whatever we summon of this will get impermed, and then this will get ashed. And it doesn't really matter which way. So, playable hand, and not able to play through it, 2 hand traps. Was that because of any of the non-engine? No, not really. We just had an unfortunate combination. Drew too many normal summons. It happens. Like Sylvie and Estella are not great to draw together. And multiple Sylvies, of course, also really bad. Okay, let me just do one final test hand, because I think that Tilda made dinner, so I don't want to be rude. So let's just see here. Devastator, Black Wedge, Tails, a Druid's Worm, Ash Blossom, and Deception. Okay. This seems powerful, right? Like, this should be, at least initial reaction is this should be able to play through 2 hand traps. Like, classic scenario, we bait out the imperm with the witch. So they go use the imperm the witch. We say Deception and tribute the Druid's Worm to bait out the Ash Blossom, and then we say Tails, and we just go for a set into a Sylvie. And that should be a combo. However, you know, of course, when we use the Deception to bait the Ash Blossom, we do lose access to the Asmina stuff, right? Unless we do some funky stuff with fusion summoning, with L set or the fusion spell, like we did in that other test hand. So that is like, it's not like it's totally free to use the Deception to bait the Ash. But when you are trying to resolve this Tails, this is definitely the more important guy to resolve. Then it's nice to actually have this in our hand to bait it out. So I don't really know why people are not playing more than one copy in their deck of Deception. But yeah, this was definitely able to play through 2 hand traps, 3 engine pieces. And I will say we were kind of happy that one of these was a monster. They did not have to both be monsters, but we are pretty happy that one of them were. Otherwise, we would not be able to bait out with the Deception. We'd have to activate this first, because we'd need to tribute this for the Deception. So yeah, okay, let me just make some conclusions, I guess. So overall record is that we have a ton of playable hands. Not too many, about half of the playable hands were able to play through 2 hand traps, and about a quarter, I guess you need to add them together, so it's like 1/3 like a bit under 1/3 of our hand were able to play through two interruptions, two hand traps, and 2/3 of our hands were able to just play. So like almost all of our hands were able to play, and only like a bit under 1/6 of our hands were just bricks that could not be able to play. But none of those hands were bricks because of we didn't have spell traps, right? We didn't even use this. This was the we could not be play, and it was exactly because we had too many monster cards. Like none of those actually happened. However, in 2 games, it would have been nice to have an extra spell and trap. But the reverse also happened at least once, and I think it also happened, actually, I can remember 2 times it happened, maybe more, but we didn't keep track of it all through the testing session. So at least sometimes, at least 2 times, I feel like it would have also been nice for us to have an extra monster. And then 2 times it would have been nice for us to have an extra spell and trap, right? So what I'm just feeling from this is that it's not actually a very big drawback to playing a lot of monsters in your non-engine line of White Forest. Maybe 15 monster hand traps plus 3 imperms is a bit too much, but that is maybe not due to the fact that there's a lot of monsters, but maybe more due to the fact that that's maybe a bit too much non-engine for the White Forest deck, since we are kind of reliant on opening 3-card combinations, right? Or at least 2-card combination, but most of the time we do want to see 3 engine pieces in order to be able to play. And so yeah, I do also think maybe a mix is completely fine as well, because the monsters do seem valuable to have, especially with deception, you know. Although maybe when you're not playing 3 deception, you won't run into that sort of a situation as often. We did also figure out that Effect Whaler was really clutch, actually bailed us out some games by letting us go into Magister's Chorizo. And yeah, so maybe the Veiler and the Drawl also, right? Because that's also a spellcaster. Should be valued pretty highly, and maybe we should even consider main decking the Drawl. And yeah, going into Magister's Chorizo is kind of a line that you do when you open Wanted or Witch or Deception, but you can only really do it if you also draw, you know, a bunch of monsters at the same time. You need 1 to tribute off from Deception, and yep, that's pretty much it, right? And then you need some spellcaster to summon. That could be either Diabell Star, or it could be a Effect Veiler or a Drawl that you can normal summon. Yeah, so Chorizo does make the Deception into a starter if you also have any spellcaster. Of course, it doesn't really make sense to count the White Forest cards, because when you open those, you just, of course, do the combo. But when you just open a Veiler or a Drawl or a Witch, all of those together with Deception and another monster, you need 1 other monster, unfortunately, does enable you to go into the White Forest combo. So that's pretty cool. Not gonna lie, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so I will take back my statement I made in the last video that 18 hand traps is not something you can do in White Forest. I do think that it is. I think we tested it here, that it works completely fine. The times we were able to play, it was not because we had a lot of monsters and not enough spells. Only 2 times of the 14 test hands we did we really miss a spell in our hand or a trap in our hand. but none of those 2 times did it make our hand unplayable. So it was never so that we couldn't even play because we had too many monsters, but sometimes it was the case that we were not able to play through 2 hand traps because we had too many monsters, and the reverse was also the case at least once. So yeah, I think main takeaway is we need to play a bit more engine. And how do we play more engine? Well, we probably need to play at least 2 Estelas, right? And then you'd say, oh, okay, if we need to play more Estelas, then maybe we also need a bit more spells and traps in our deck. Don't really see what else we like. Maybe more Asaminal sets could also help us play through hand traps better. So, you know, upping the Asaminal set count could also be an idea. I guess we'll explore it further in the next video I'll do, which would be on board breakers. But yeah, I feel like this video has been long enough, so I'm gonna stop it here. Thanks for watching.